Peak is slowly turning out to be one of my favorite games of 2025. It is a very simple and straightforward game about climbing that respects the player's creativity and intelligence. It puts you in the shoes of a goofy-looking jelly thing whose flight crashes on a remote island and must hence reach the peak of the island in order to signal for help and escape this barren wasteland. This climb sees you going through a beach, jungle, snowy mountaintop, Mordor, and even inside of Mount Doom environment, all of which are randomly generated every 24 hours. As simple as both the premise and the act of climbing up generated terrain are in this game, with you just holding left click and going, it's actually remarkable how much replayability is crammed into this straightforward gameplay loop. The most blatantly apparent piece of replay value comes in the form of randomly generated maps that change each day. Not only are these maps that swap every 24 hours a fantastic addition that makes me want to return to the game every day to see what the RNG gods cooked up that day, but within these random maps, the loot drops themselves are randomized between every run, which makes every attempt feel unique. You see, this game isn't afraid to spawn seemingly impossible to clamber over terrain, yet the game also gives the players a vast array of items that help them on their journey, which are all randomized at the start of each run. Every briefcase you find and open on your journey to the top spawns something random inside of it. From food and beverages that help with stamina and ward off hunger, to ropes and anti-ropes, chain launchers, medical equipment, various legendary and mystical items, some of which I still have no idea what they do, just to name a few. This leads to basically endless possibilities where a path that allowed you to scale to the peak in one run might be completely impossible to scale on a different attempt. Almost every decision you make in the moment has the potential to be a drawback later in your run. You might want to use a rope launcher to more easily climb up a cliff in one of the earlier sections, just for that to be the only rope launcher you get in that run, with you now facing a cliff where that rope would really come in handy. You might be unsure on whether or not you should attempt to climb up a precarious looking section, so you decide to look around, not find any better paths, only for you to return and figure out that the small amount of hunger you've accumulated in the minute or so when you were looking around made all the difference between a successful and unsuccessful climb. Not only that, but deadly flora and fauna, the weather, sugar crashes, and each and every bit of equipment you take on your journey diminish your overall stamina, making this entire game just a constant cycle of calculating and adapting to your circumstances, thinking about what you should and shouldn't pack, and if you have enough stamina to successfully make the climb ahead of you. All of this is even ignoring the existence of co-op, which adds a whole new dynamic to the game, with you being able to help or hinder your teammates, with a revive mechanic now being introduced, with there being more mouths to feed but ultimately also way more room to store items. It's also ignoring the fact that the game has not only two difficulty options, but even harder and harder difficulties that unlock each time you successfully reach the peak on the hardest difficulty, and even unlockable customization items for achievement hunters. And while there are some clearly bare-bones parts to this experience, like the push-to-talk feature not working, instead your microphone seems to always be turned on.
I got the fucking achievement, man. I'm fucking crazy hamburger.
Crazy hamburger! Crazy hamburger! This is horrible!
There are also no public lobbies, with the game currently supporting only solo play or making a lobby of your own into which you can invite your friends. Certain items like the lanterns and such are basically completely useless at the time of writing this and only take up inventory space. I also just wish for both more unique items in general and even more immersive sim elements. As an example, standing next to lava should basically completely negate the effects of a blizzard if you ask me. Another look into the random terrain generation of the game wouldn't be amiss, because stuff like this can happen, with loot and scenery just floating about completely inaccessible. The most important thing about everything that I'm saying here is that patches are already being shipped out in a timely manner that are fixing some of these issues less than a couple of weeks after release. This actually made me rewrite this script a couple of times, and just recently a patch to improve the stability of the game dropped, which apparently fixed an issue that many players had where they were unable to play the game. Unfortunately, this still didn't fix my friend's game because it crashes their entire system after a few minutes of play, but my point is that glitches are being ironed out basically on the daily, which might make this entire video obsolete and out of date the second I publish it. But as of the time of writing and recording this, for the €4.50 that I spent on this game, this is one of the easiest recommendations of 2025. 8 out of 10.